The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, hi everyone. First of all, I just want to say thank you for all of you for attending our WAPL training program. You've had our sessions 1 to 10, and so the 11th one is a bonus. And so for the bonus session, we're going to be looking at domains, saved URLs, QR codes, SEO, and tracking. And that all comes together in what we're calling how to promote your site. Because obviously you've all spent a while on building out your site, putting in a huge amount of effort, and so it's only right that you get the most out of it and get a huge response from your consumers. Okay, I'd like to say actually that we've had some great feedback coming in over the webinar series, including some constructive criticism, which we're certainly taking in, and we'll be certainly considering that when we go forward with some extra sessions. Okay, so let's make a start. So first of all, how accessible is this site at present? Well, we've got our short URL set up. So as we I think Phil actually introduced the idea of using the short URL, which is set up through site access and short URL. And there we've got our Kaching 2. So currently the way to get to this site is to go to go.wapl.net/Kaching 2, which is great. But many of you will be thinking, I don't want to see go.wapl.net in my site URL. I want to have something custom and bespoke to my brand. And so the way to do that would be to use a domain name. And so what we're going to do is set one up today. So if we go to Site, Access, and Domains. Now this is the general domains page for Canvas, and this is the best place to go for all your information concerning domains. You've got help over here giving you all the documentation and some extra here. And this section here is extremely useful for all of you to just understand what needs to be done, the steps that you need to take. But I can show you that right now. So what we're going to do is add a domain to our site. Just clicking over on the left-hand side, and the domain that we're going to use is kachingwheels.com. Now this is a domain which we've purchased, and so this is something which you'll have to do outside of the WAPL platform. You may already own a domain. You may already have a website where you can use a redirect script, which is available on our dashboard. So you could use a redirect script to send mobile users which access a specific domain and send them off to the mobile version of the site, but all coming from one URL. But I can show you right now how you can set up a domain within Canvas. So we're just going to add that on. Let me check that's the correct one. Okay, so kachingwheels.com, we'll just add that in. Okay, so we'll see that the domain's added. Now, what we need to do to ensure that this will work correctly and correspond to the site that we've built. Okay, so we've added it in Canvas, but what you also need to do is ensure that the DNS-A name record, as you'll see instructing you here, is pointing to the WAPL server IP 184.168.35.119. Now this IP number won't change, so unless we were to do any server maintenance or move to some new servers, which we'd all notify of. And so you can always come to this page, Site Access Domains, to just check on that server IP which you need to use. So this is the exact server IP, and so you'll need to ensure that the domain you wish to use for your mobile site is pointing to, the DNS-A name record is pointing to 184.106.35.119. It does note here that web forwarding is not the same and won't resolve correctly. We do get many people who come to us, call into support, send emails through saying my site, my domain isn't working correctly, and it's because they're using forwarding. So make sure that you're not forwarding it and you've just got the DNS-A name record set to point to that server IP. So once you've done that, you've added your domain in Canvas, you can just check and you'll see here. Great. So the domain is set up correctly and it resolves to the correct IP. And so that's telling us that everything's good. We could check it now. we've got the QR code there. So if we go to kachingwheels.com, now I should say that this may not work because it does take a couple of hours at least. Sometimes, it could be up to a day for the domain to resolve around the internet. So just be patient and just give it a while before you decide it's not working. So we'll just copy that, paste and go. Okay, and there we go. There's our site running on kachingwheels.com. Just as we wanted. Okay. So we can go back to Canvas, and so that's our domain set up already. Now that was so quick because we've had, and it was resolved already. We didn't have to wait that time because we've had that domain pointing to that IP for some time now. So that it's been a number of weeks. We set that up when we decided to do this webinar series. Okay, great. So now we can just look at saved URLs. Now we're going to stay in the same page, but just to remind you where we are, we're site, then access and domains. And what we're going to do is set up a saved URL. And you might think of a saved URL in terms of what people might call a vanity URL, which is really a URL which doesn't have a huge string of long numbers which you're not really sure what they are, and consumers won't really take anything from that. You want something short and concise, something which is easy to understand, easy to remember if you just see it on an ad or something like that, or in your web browser. You just want a nice, good, concise experience. So what we're going to do, and say this is for a specific page that we're setting up, or perhaps for a certain campaign we're going to run, placing on ads or so on. And so you could have media running outside of your site, driving to it, driving consumers through. And so you'll want to give them a specific URL to a certain page. So what I've just done there, expand open the domain we've got. And just to show you, you've got some options here. So if you're running a multi-language site, you could have, obviously Kaching currently is only in English, but we would have the other options if we were using them. So we could ensure that Kaching Wheels, perhaps we could have kachingwheels.co.uk, and that could always launch in English, or .es, and that would always launch in Spanish. Okay, so we'll go now to set up our first saved URL. Okay, so what we'll do is just add the saved URL. We'll give it a name. This name won't actually be seen by any consumers. This is just for your own organizational purposes, but it's good to call it something which will make sense to you as a developer, and just so you're keeping everything organized within Canvas. Okay, so what I'll call this is just the store locator. Okay, and the trigger is what you'll have within your URL. So in our case, this will be kachingwheels/locator. So we just, well, no, the trigger will just be locator, sorry. Okay. Just press the green plus button. And we can come back here, look at saved URLs, and we'll see we've got that store locator there. If we go to edit saved URL, we'll see there, locator. And we can also set, obviously we'll want the page there. And so if we just set the page there to the locator page, and there we could also look at campaigns, which I'll come back to later, and we've also got languages as well. So this would ensure that kachingwheels.com/locator would always launch in this specific language variant. We just won't choose anything because we want it to launch in the default English. Okay, so we'll just save this change here. And so now we can go to just test this /locator. And you'll see that's just launched up our locator page. So that's the best way to set up a URL which you'll go on to use placing in ads and media. You might be using it in QR codes or various other media which you're going to drive consumers to your site with. Okay. So now we've got that set up, let's take a look at how we can set up a QR code within Canvas. So if we go to Tools and then URL Generator, and this will generate URLs specific to a number of variables which we can select. And as we've already set up a saved URL for that locator, we'll go ahead and use that. Otherwise, we could use perhaps a go.wapl.net domain and then filter it for various filters there, set a launch page, but we've already done this in our saved URL. So we want to use kachingwheels.com/locator. So we'll select that as a saved URL, and then we can just scroll right down and generate the URL. Okay, so you'll see in the preview that URL will go to the locator page. If we scroll down, we'll see here's our QR code. So that's generated a QR code for this URL. And so you could all perhaps use your phones now to test that, and that will send you right off to the correct page. If you were going to use this, you could right-click there, save image as, and then save that locally. And you might want to perhaps resize it for whatever kind of use you'll be using it for. Just to give, you may not actually have used QR codes, or may not have used QR codes before building sites, or just as a consumer, or just using it on websites. So just to give you a brief idea, they're an open source 2D code. So it's not proprietary to any organization in any way. It's just set up for anyone's use. And they can be used by any QR code reader. So there's a number of apps on all the different operating systems, on iPhone. You can find loads of them in the App Store, Windows Marketplace, Android Marketplace, and so on. And it's just a really quick way to get to a site. Often I'll use the URL generator as a developer whilst I'm making sites in Canvas, just because it's so quick. And I imagine consumers would look at these in the same way. It's just a quick way to get to a destination. And you could perhaps surround a QR code on print, or on you could perhaps put it on a billboard, or anything you like, and just surround it with some really appealing creative, which will catch the eye and make consumers think this is something for me. And so we've got some recommendations generally. If you're going to be using a QR code on a magazine page or any kind of print material, we would generally suggest that the QR code is around 4 centimeters square on the page. Forgive me for using European measurements here for any of the Americans listening. So the consumer could then, from that 4 centimeters square QR code, they could then typically hold, providing, depending on lighting conditions and the quality of the camera and the QR code reader that they're using, they can hold a typical device about 10 to 15 centimeters away, and that would scan quite easily. And also that 4 centimeters, we'd imagine that to be noticeable. It would stand out, and it would be obvious that there's a QR code there for scanning. You don't want to have it too small that people don't even recognize that it's there. You may want to have a small description next to it on the material, just to explain, perhaps to educate people who don't know what it is, or to also give the URL in case that it's not accessible for any reason. Perhaps there's perhaps the internet's gone down. Perhaps you're in an underground train with no reception, so you could just remember that URL instead of fiddling around with the QR code and having it not work because of bad signal. And so say on point of sale materials, we generally suggest the code to be larger, because not only do we want it to stand out more, but then consumers could stand several feet away and still snap it. Unless, of course, the lighting's poor. You may want to have some lighting specifically on the code, just to make it stand out and be easily readable. Okay, so we may have some questions later on that, but for now we'll move on to look at SEO. So for search engine optimization for your mobile site within Canvas, there are various things which you can do. And the first one we'll look at is using Okay. The first one we'll look at is using keywords. So you can go into Edit, Build and Pages, and you'll see all of our pages here as we set up. And we can use, you'll see in the tabs there, a description. Now this is something which is also good for search engine optimization. So you just give a brief description of the page, and that will use search engines will use this very much in the same way as keywords, using the words here to associate it with any searches. So you can just enter a short description there of your page. Keywords, as mentioned, these are just for search engines to recognize the nature of the content on the page. So just put a few brief things in here. Obviously, you could go some way along the lines of the page title. So you could have home, but then also content. So you could have chrome wheels. And so on. Okay, and another way to enhance your site for search engines would be to set tidy URLs. Tidy URLs, very much the same way we had short URLs. Tidy URLs are URLs which they help to work towards a vanity URL by assigning a URL to each page. And so for here, for example, we've got home. And if we expand the products one, that will be set to products. And so we could go to kachingwheels.com. It will take up any custom domain that you've added. It will recognize that. So you could have kachingwheels.com/products, just the same as it would be go.wapper.net/kaching2, I think the short URL was, and then you could have /products as well. And so tidy URLs, not only are they good for consumers and keeping the site looking good in the browser, so the URL is recognizable and it's easily understood by the user. It's also a good thing for SEO as well. They're recognized by search engines. Okay, so we've looked at descriptions. Another thing which is worth taking note of are alt tags for images. So if we go in, we'll go into the home page. And so I'm not sure actually if okay. So the quick label on a link will be used because these links are all graphical, and so always where the page is loaded correctly, you will have the graphical links. But as a fallback, you will always have that quick label. And this will help also in SEO. And there are a few ways in which you can add in alt tags, but this is one of them. So we can just have featured products there. And we'll just save that. And so you'll see it won't change anything on the page, but just for SEO purposes, that will definitely help. And also I can show you, if you go to Edit, Design and Graphics, this is perhaps a better way of doing it. You can go here and give a label to a graphic. And so this will be used anywhere that graphic's placed. So whether that be in a menu, you might be using it in a shop chunk or a link chunk. This is going to be carried through wherever you're using it on all of the pages, wherever. So we can just put carrot black in there, and that will carry over. And you'll see these notes here in the documentation for a few things, and that will just tell you, that's going to be helping with SEO. Okay, and one last thing for SEO, I'd just like to show you, if we can find a text chunk somewhere, maybe one in the footer mega chunk. Yeah. Okay, so in style, you will see, I've lost it. Options. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Okay, so in under the text options tab, and then display as, if you select, you see here heading 1, heading 2, 3, 4, and so on. That will also help with the way search engines will read through your site. It will make it obvious to the spiders that they'll be using this text chunk as a header. In that case, it's not, so I'll just leave it. But that's just to give you an idea of how you can make your site make more sense to a search engine spider. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is tracking, which is a very important thing. Obviously, you'll all want to know how well your sites are performing, and you may want to be showing your clients how well their sites are performing. And so what they'll want to see are some figures. And so what I will do to begin with, we'll go back to the URL we set up. So the saved URL. So this store locator URL. So we've set up that QR code. So what we want to do is measure how well that QR code is performing. Let's say we've got it in a weather on weather.com, something like that. So it's for people who looking at the weather, thinking about washing their cars, something like that. Then okay, sorry. So what we're going to do is get a campaign set up, and a campaign is effectively a way to channel your traffic into a certain way of reporting. So we can set up a campaign and then know that all of the traffic coming through on that campaign that we've set up is for this kachingwheels.com/locator URL which we've set up. And so we can get an exact idea of the performance of that QR code, which is a very useful thing. And you can create as many of these as you want to. So for all of your ads that you've got placed around the internet, you can track how well they're performing. And also there's general reporting, which I can show you later on, but let's stick with this QR code for now. So what we're going to do is set up a campaign. So we need to go to Site, Access, and Campaigns. Currently no campaigns here, so we want to add one. And what we'll call this is the QR locator. Okay, not too much we need to set in terms of settings here. There's various things for sites which are using billing. Okay, and so let's just add let's say we've got a few of these QR codes. So QR code, QR locator 2. So we could say that's placed on a billboard somewhere. And so how are we going to group these two together? And this helps when you're running reports, so you can run off the spreadsheet, and then this will group these two QR codes together, so you can see perhaps QR codes which are ran on a certain site, or ads which were used on a certain site. You get the idea. Okay, so let's set up a campaign group, and we'll call this locator. And we can just go to manage campaigns on your site, link there, and then we can just assign these to the groups. To show you what I did there, expand it, open the campaign, go to options, campaign group, locator. And we'll save that and just do the same with this one, options, locator. Okay. And so now we'll go back to our URL which we set up, so site access domains. Open up kachingwheels.com domain and the store locator. And so we can say that we've placed this URL on that specific QR code and we want to be able to track it. And so we can just check that, and this will use the QR locator campaign. And we can just save that change. And so now any traffic which comes through to kachingwheels.com/locator will all be measured through this campaign. And so when you go through in the stats, you'll see all the various metrics for that specific URL. So you can gauge performance really well. And you can also do that through domains. So say you've got various domains running, you can then break down your domain performance by campaign as well. So you'll see the two campaigns we created earlier are still there for our selection. So it may be that you've got various domains for different regions, so for different countries perhaps. You could set up campaigns for US, Canada, Mexico, and so on, and just assign the campaigns as relevant. Okay, so how do we get to the stats report? So if we go up in the top in Canvas, Tools, Statistics, and then you've got a few options. We can just use the graphical user interface and just go through and look at visits. So I went to Tools, Statistics, Visits, and here you'll see we've got a filter. So let's look at this first. We want to measure total visits to the site, and we want to show it by week. And we'll say from the start of November until now. I think that's when we started the webinar series. And so we'll just look at the 10 records by week. You could also do by campaign. So like I was talking about, you could see the stats for this QR code. And so we can just filter here. Okay, and we'll see the stats as follows. So as you'll see, a good number. I think this must have been the first webinar. 79 hits there, so that's when we gave this URL out, the Kaching 2 URL, the short URL, and then there's some traffic every now and then. So that's just measuring. Obviously, a lot of the people who attended the webinar, you guys may have gone on this, and so that's just that's reported that. What you can also do is just download this data. But what I can show you is a detailed report can be run by going to Tools, Statistics, and then Statistics Download. You can set your dates. So we want to run that by 1st of November, show by week, ending today. It's actually often worth pointing out that it's better to choose the day prior. So choose the end of the day, so 23:59 for the 14th, just because today wouldn't be the best day to run stats for, as it wouldn't be a whole day as we're only some way through it. So we'll go with Wednesday. And we can just download that. And you'll see the spreadsheet here. I'll open that up and then I will make sure that the webinar is showing it. And here we go, we've got a report run for the site. And so this is all broken down by weeks. You've got your page views, uniques, your ratios, and various tabs. Visitor loyalty, so we're looking at a large number of US visits. We can see loyalty by country. And if we had a shop set up, that would be measuring our shop performance for individual products. And yeah, as you'll see here, so we've got our QR code stats here. No one's been on it yet. Well, you may well have been. It is worth telling you all that the stats will take a couple of hours to aggregate, which is why it's also a good idea to choose the day before the day that you're running them, just to ensure that you're not missing out on anything that's perhaps going through aggregation. And so you may well have gone on that QR code which I showed earlier on in the webinar. Page view metrics by source. And you'll see all the numbers, all the figures are coming through from no campaign as it hasn't yet picked up on the campaign traffic which we've set up. And various other metrics there. Okay, so I'll just show you slightly more on, just bring the back to my browser. Okay, so I can just show you slightly more on the stats. So if we go to Tools, Statistics and Map, what we can do is measure the visits which are coming to this site from all over the world. So we'll just set our date to the 14th of December, no campaign, and we'll just filter that. And you can see an overview here, a graphical one. We'll just download it. You can download all of these stats in various formats, CSV here. So we can just load that up. And I'll bring this over. So you'll see this site has got relatively poor performance, only 2 visits from Great Britain and 25 from the US. And that's just measuring people who have gone from their phones onto the site. And so that's this would give you a breakdown by ISO2 code, giving all the codes down the left-hand side in the A column, and then the total number of visits. Notice it's visits we're running here. I can also show you, if I switch back to my browser and scroll up, you can also do by page views, and so you can do both visits and page views by geolocation. Another metric which is useful is by handsets. What we'll do is go to Tools, Statistics, Visits, and then we'll select the report and choose handset visits. And so we'll run that. Okay, and we'll notice that we've got a large proportion coming from Google Chrome and the Apple iPhone as well. So all these metrics really useful for use. Okay, great. So one last thing, I'll show you additional reporting which you might be interested in. So you can go Site Access, actually Site Properties and Analytics. And here you can enter a Google Analytics tracking code. So any of you which use GA for your desktop sites, you might also be interested in using it, you may be used to it, or you may like the number of metrics it gives. You can just enable it here. If you just get a tracking code from Google, enter it there, so that will look something like this. You can just save that in. And so that's it's enabled that quickly, and it may just take a while to aggregate, but once you've done that, a couple of hours afterwards, you should start seeing your stats on Google Analytics as well. So it's definitely something that's useful. Okay, so I will open up for questions. If you'd just like to raise your hand if you have any. Okay, Sunny. Just a second, Sunny. Hi, Sunny.
Hello.
Hi.
Am I clear right now?
Yes, you are. How are you?
Okay. Hello, Ed. Very fine. And I must really appreciate all the webinars till date.
Oh, fantastic. I'm glad you enjoyed them.
Okay. But the thing is, in today's webinar, you explained the saved URLs area.
Yeah.
In that, if I'm using 2 types of QR codes for the single destination, is it so that I will have to create 2 separate saved URLs?
I would say if you want to measure them, and I definitely recommend doing so, then I would say that would be best, because then you could assign those 2 different campaigns. Because if I show you quickly, site access domains, and then we'll go back to that saved URL we set up. Oh, sorry, I'll just switch my browser back from this. Okay, so if we go to edit that And if you'll see here, campaign, you can only select one. And so what I'd suggest is, and it may be that you're placing your QR codes in different locations, and so I'd add another saved URL and give it the name of a different location, so, or whatever the website is. Just save it there so you know, and also call the campaign the same thing. And so you can assign another campaign to that, so in your reports you'll then be able to see the performance and then weigh them up against each other and just see the measurements there. Does that answer your question?
Okay, means if the QR codes for the single destination are printed on two different medias, so I will be able to individually track their clicks.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would do it through that method. Definitely have two saved URLs, so you could call them something different. So wherever you're placing them, I'd just put somewhere, you could perhaps put it in the trigger, or you could just have it in the name. The URLs would have to be different because whilst they might go to the same location, the URLs would need to be different so that you could track them separately. Otherwise, it would just be tracking exactly what's coming in, because the way the tracking works, it does it by the URL that media is coming in from. And so you'll need a different URL destination to be able to track it separately, if that makes sense.
Okay, and secondly, if I am purchasing a domain, then I will have to point it to the IP, which you have shown in the screen right now.
That's correct, yeah.
It's the only, it's all.
Yeah, that is all you need to do. So you'll just in your domain configuration, once you've purchased it, your domain vendor website, you'll go into that, and then within the settings somewhere you'll be able to point it, and so you'll point the DNS name record to this server IP, and so that's what that's doing. It's pointing it to WAPL servers, and then by adding it to site access domains in your site, it tells our system where that domain should be going, because before you do that, it doesn't know which one of the WAPL sites to go to, and so it probably just goes to wapl.net. And so what you'd need to do is set this up within Canvas, just add your domain in there, and something which is always good, it does tell you when it's set up correctly, and it'll tell you, if it is set up incorrectly, it'll tell you, and it'll also tell you where it's resolving to. So you'll always want to make sure that these numbers are matching. So the resolves to and the server IP should always be the same. Okay?
Okay. I'm having two questions regarding the previous webinars. Can I go ahead right now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. We've actually got which webinars in particular you inquired
regarding
to?
the webinar 8 and 9, I'm just not able to see the WAPL download code in the videos.
Yeah, I think Raul is actually looking into that. He's going to get that up on a dashboard if it's not already. Raul, he might actually be on the webinar. Raul, have you got that information available to upload, or is it already up there?
When I see under my account, Sunny, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
When I see under my account, I see the download links. Ed, can you go to the dashboard, please?
Yeah, sure.
And go to the webinar stuff.
No, I don't get it down on mine because I'm an admin user. But yeah, if you do go down on the webinar section, you should be able to get through to it.
Yeah, in that, I mean, under my account, I can see the links to click to download links, but Sunny says that he's not able to. So I'm basically looking into that. You are signed up under the developer package, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you're not able to get the links, I'll directly send it to you. If you can email us at support.
Okay, webinar at wapl.net. That's the mail ID, no?
Yeah, that's fine.
I will be providing you a support request mail for providing me with the code. Hello.
You can send it to webinar at wapl.net, and we'll I'll send you the zip files for the source code.
Oh, okay, okay, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
And in future, after the webinars, hello.
Hi.
Hello. In future, if we are having any kind of queries, as the webinars are ending right now, so can we have a support from forum itself?
Yeah, you can post in the forums and we'll answer it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sonny. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I see Matt's got his hand up. Just a second, Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Thanks very much for the session. Always very useful. I really like this one. I've got a couple of questions about the reports, which will probably apply more to our case than most people's. We have quite a lot of sites, and so getting reporting on all of those sites can be a little tricky. So my questions are really about what you guys are planning to do with the reporting in the future. Primarily, are you going to integrate the reports you can see when you're actually inside Canvas, inside the site, with the reports that can be accessed from the dashboard?
Yeah, we are, and we do plan to move further towards the dashboard for reporting. And so, yeah, I perhaps should have mentioned in the webinar that you can all get reports from the dashboard. So you'll see more stats, and that will send you off to a load of your stats there. But yeah, I mean, we do plan to move further towards the dashboard for reporting, to group it all together there and provide some decent metrics. And we're definitely taking on board that, you know, some of you have got so many sites that you're running that it's really just a really arduous process to go through each one, download a report, and so on. And so we're looking at maybe batching them or whatever. But all of your comments are taken on board, and you know, we're definitely striving for continuous improvement. So it's certainly not ignored.
No, I don't think it is. It's been really useful because we have quite a few sort of users who access the... Sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Raul.
We have received some similar kind of requests from other customers too. I presume yours is about having a way to list a couple of clients in the same vertical under...
Yeah, that would be one thing, yeah, to integrate several reports or several sites into one report. The other one would be the automation and scheduling of reports. So that maybe at the beginning of every month I receive 15 emails from sites that I want to get a monthly report on, or something. I understand this. It puts quite a lot of strain on the systems, but like features like this would be really, really cool, especially in our case where very quickly we're going to have probably several hundred sites.
Okay, I mean, absolutely.
Internally we are having discussions about even opening the reporting API. So it depends upon. It's just a matter of time that's being made.
I know that would be really cool. Yeah. And what else did I have?
Sorry, go on.
That's 3 of them. Right. The unique visitors. We did talk about this before in one of the first ones, but I've forgotten the reason. How do you identify unique visitors to the sites in the statistics? So if I visit now and I visit again in a day, am I still a unique visitor, or would that count as 2 unique visitors?
I do forget the timescales which is measured on, but I can always find out for you. It's basically within a day. No, you won't be a unique. You'll be a repeat. I think it's done in terms of months, and we do it by what we call a WAPL unique identifier. Raul, correct me if I'm wrong on the technical side, but I think we do it through that route, and so it's we check what we call the WUI, and we use that to determine if you're a repeat visitor or not, and it's done on a time scale. I think I would say it's within perhaps 2 months, and if you come back within 2 months, you're a repeat visitor. But if it's a gap of 2 months, then your class is a unique again, because it's quite likely that within that period of time, content may have changed. I mean, if it's quite a fast-moving site, you've got loads of updates coming through weekly, then I think really they should be considered as a unique visitor, because much of the content they wouldn't have seen before.
Yeah, where do you store the WUI? Is it stored in a cookie or something?
I think it is. I would say so. Yeah, Raul, is that?
You can. I think you can obtain the WAPL unique identifier if you're writing a WAPL code, script or something. We pass it to that as a request parameter. So if you're calling a WAPL script from a Canvas site, you will be able to get the WUI parameter. it might be coming out as WAPL_WUI or UV_WUI. So you might get in either of these parameters. You might be able
Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Last one.
Go on then.
I don't see the webinar stuff when I log into the dashboard either.
Okay. Which account type are you?
I don't know.
Okay, it's all right.
Do you want me to speak to support?
We
Is that
can.
going to be the best way to do it?
You know what? We'll. It may be worth doing that, but we'll take a note of it anyway. I'll note that down and just find out why. We can use your name and check out your account. So we'll figure out why it's not showing. It should be. I think it should be. I don't get it on mine, but it should be down in this square. I'm not sure if you. Raul, is that where it should be in the bottom right-hand square?
Yeah, that's where it should be. I don't know what account you're using, but that's where it should be.
Okay, I'll look again. If I've got a problem, I'll send an email into support.
Okay,
Yeah.
support at
I mean,
WAP.net.
The other thing is after this final webinar, we'll be sending out an email with basically a single location to see all the videos and stuff like that. So it's not going to be restricted by any kind of package, I guess. So
Cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the recordings at the moment are just for you guys who have registered in the first place for the sessions, and then afterwards we'll open up the videos for everyone else's benefit. So you should find them quite easily accessible after this point.
Excellent. And let me just thank you guys again for all the effort you put into these. They've been really, really informative.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Okay, so we've got a question from Sonia. Just a second, Sonia. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Okay, great. I kind of have a basic question about the difference between an iPhone or iPad compatible website versus, the type of mobile websites that you develop with your platform.
Well, our sites are optimized for all mobile devices, and so for iPhones, iPads, Android phones, Windows phones, old WML phones, it's all optimized. So for all those phones you mentioned and so many more, thousands more, and it's what we've worked towards since the company was launched. It's really optimized for all of them. So when you're building your site, the Kaching site, and there might be a few styling changes that you need to account for. Ad designers, certainly when they're building sites, they look at BlackBerries in particular because they're often they can be difficult to style for. They interpret CSS in different ways, and so you need to make sure when you're building a site you're looking at various devices, and it might be that you're building a site specific or intended to be viewed on say just iPads, which is fine, and you can definitely use Canvas or custom WAPL to do so. It's just a case of our system doing what it naturally does best, taking account of the screen width and all the other device profile, all the parts of the device profile, so all the specifics, and it just takes account of what that device can do, and so it's really not too much. It doesn't really require too much thought. It's good to have in the back of your mind what you're building for, but you can be quite confident when you're building in Canvas that it will work quite well on all devices.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I had that question because a client asked me, and I wanted to be able to explain it thoroughly. So with
one more thing there is when you're doing the redirection from your website to the mobile site version, for iPads and other tablet PCs, tablet devices, we are still considering them as desktop browsers. So you might want to, when you see that an iPad or any other tablet is requesting and you want to serve up the mobile version, you might want to change a little bit of the redirect code so it accommodates both the iPad and other tablets too as mobile devices instead of desktop ones.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good point, Rahul. But it will you can rest assured that when you go to that specific URL, when you're not going through a redirect, it will go perfectly. So if you're using whatever you're using, if you go to that URL, it won't be sending you off anywhere else. It will always go to that right site. It's just a case of ensuring your redirect code is set up correctly.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sonia. Okay, we've got a question from Rob. Just a second, Rob. Hi, Rob. Hello?
Hi guys.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, yeah. How are you?
Okay, great. I'm good, thanks, yes. My question is an SEO question. Obviously the Kaching website is quite image-based.
Yeah.
Have you found it an advantage at all to have some kind of text on the page as well? So let's say, for example, that Kaching was a keyword that you kind of wanted your mobile site to rank for. Would you have said that it was an advantage as well to have it as text on the page, or is it something that maybe you think maybe isn't that important?
It does help, and it's definitely worthwhile considering. And you should be considering all of these things. It shouldn't be an afterthought, any of these things which you've gone through today. It should be something which you're thinking of from before you start building. And so you can be doing these along the way. So, for instance, adding the image tags and thinking about how you want your reporting to be set up, because it might affect the structure of your site, things like that. And so, yeah, it's definitely worthwhile considering text in addition, because it does help SEO. But also you can work with that when it's mainly graphic based, because graphical sites can generally look much more rich, and it's often a better experience when you're using graphics, because you can work with all the different fonts and so on. There aren't restrictions in terms of fonts.
That's a bit of a trade-off, maybe.
Yeah, it is a trade-off. But what you can also do is assign those labels to the graphics, and so it doesn't become too much of a problem. I think text, I may be wrong, but I would say text might be slightly better in terms of SEO, and so it is a trade-off. But it's just something which you have to be thinking about. I don't think graphical labels is necessarily a bad thing. It should work quite well.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, thanks.
Bye. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Looks like we're just about done. So a final thank you to everyone who's joined, and for anyone who's listening to the recordings as well. Thank you for sticking with us and viewing these videos. I hope they've all been useful to you. And if you have any more questions, or if you've got any more feedback on the webinar series, please get in touch, webinar@wapl.net, and we'll be more than happy to look at your feedback and consider it going forward. Okay, thanks everyone.